Hello class, I hope you are doing well today. Because you are on this video, you've listened to what your homework was for the evening. Congratulations. This is the video that you will be watching so you can learn about simple, compound, and complex sentences. So, before you start writing anything down in your interactive notebook, let me just show you what I want you to write down and then what is another little part of your homework, okay? So, So this first page and this little part right there, just the when and the while, those are your notes. So those are the notes that you need to write down in your interactive notebook. Do you want to know why I want you to write these down? Because there's a quiz tomorrow. So you want to make sure that you write these notes down exactly how I have them, okay? Because I am allowing you guys to use your notes on this quiz. After you take the notes, what we're going to do is go through the examples of simple, compound, and complex sentences together so I can explain to you why they are that way. And then after that, you have one itty-bitty homework assignment that might take you maybe 2-3 minutes. What I want you to do is you have 8 different examples of sentences that will either be simple, compound, or complex, and it is your job to figure out which ones you think that they are. Make sure to write this in your interactive notebook as well because we will be going over this tomorrow at the beginning of class before the quiz, all right? All right, so let's begin the notes. So we're going to go to simple sentences. So simple sentences have the most basic elements that make it a sentence, and those are 3 things that are a subject, a verb, and a completed thought. So all of those different aspects of a sentence must be inside of a simple sentence for it to be considered a simple sentence. The most important thing is that simple sentences are also called independent clauses. So a question on the quiz tomorrow might be, what is another name for a simple sentence? And that answer would be an independent clause. An important note here is that even if the independent clause is part of a complex or a compound sentence, it can stand by itself. So it can be something, I ate the cake. That part of a sentence is considered a simple sentence by itself, but even if it was added on to a complex or compound sentence, it would still be an independent clause. All right, simple sentences are pretty short most of the time, something like, I ate the cake. So you want to make sure that not all of your simple sentences are boring. So you can lengthen them and make them more interesting by using either compound subjects, compound verbs, or prepositional phrases. You don't have to use all 3 of these in every simple sentence, but they do help make it more interesting. All right, I'll do my best to keep that simple up there for just a little while longer while I explain the compound sentences. If you need me to stop talking, just make sure to pause the video so you can finish writing these notes, okay? So compound sentences. So compound sentences refer to a sentence made up of 2 independent clauses connected to one another with the coordinating conjunction and a comma. That is very important. Just because there is a comma in a sentence does not make it a compound sentence, and just because there is a coordinating conjunction in a sentence does not mean that it's a compound sentence. The 2 have to be intertwined. They have to be used together. So coordinating conjunctions, there are a lot of them, but an easy way to remember a couple are fanboys. That is an acronym that stands for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So you want to make sure that if you memorize the acronym fanboys that you recognize what they are. You also need to recognize that these are not the only type of coordinating conjunctions that there are. All right, I'm going to go down past the simple sentences. So like I said, if you need to pause the video, make sure that you do that. Okay, so complex sentences, they are a little more complex, hence the name. So a complex sentence is made up of an independent clause as well as a dependent clause. It's not 2 independent clauses or 2 dependent clauses. It has to be both an independent as well as a dependent clause. So we've talked about independent clauses, so let's talk about dependent clauses now. Dependent clauses lack one element that make it a complete sentence. It cannot stand alone as a sentence by itself. Here are a couple of examples of dependent clauses. Because Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon. So, what is the word in that sentence that makes it a dependent clause? It is this because right here. If the because wasn't there, then that would be considered an independent clause. Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon. That could be used as a statement by itself, as a sentence by itself. But when that because is there, that takes that away. Another example, while he waited at the bus station. Once again, it is this first word, the while, that changes the fact that it's a dependent clause. If the while was not there, it would work. He waited at the bus station. That would be considered an independent clause. So words like because and while, they are called subordinating conjunctions. I am going to move these notes down just a little bit. Okay, so a subordinating conjunction, here are some examples of those. After, although, because, before, if, since, and unless. When and while. Once again, those are not all the subordinating conjunctions, but these are some that are the most popular. All right, I am going to move down, so if you don't have all of this written, make sure you pause the video. So now let's just go over some of the examples of the three types of sentences. So simple sentences are pretty easy, hence the name simple sentence. Joe waited for the train. The subject of that sentence is Joe, right here. And then the verb of that sentence is waited. That makes that sentence a simple sentence. The train was late. That is another simple sentence. The train is the subject of that sentence, and the was is the verb. All right. Examples of compound sentences. Joe waited for the train, but the train was late. Okay, let's think about this. What makes up a compound sentence? Two independent clauses that are connected together with what? With a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So that right here looks like this. Joe waited for the train, comma, but the train was late. So now let's split this sentence up into two with taking the comma and the coordinating conjunction out. Joe waited for the train. Is that an independent clause? Absolutely, it can be a sentence by itself. The train was late. Can that be an independent clause? Stand by itself? Absolutely. So by putting the comma and the coordinating conjunction, that makes it a compound sentence. Let's do one more example. I looked for Mary and Samantha at the bus station, but they arrived at the station before noon and left on the bus before I arrived. All right, so let's split the sentence up one more time. I looked for Mary and Samantha at the bus station. Does that work? Absolutely. They arrived at the station before noon and left on the bus before I arrived. That is another simple sentence or an independent clause. So if we add the coordinating conjunction as well as the comma, it makes it a compound sentence. Alrighty, so complex sentences are a little bit trickier. So I did 3 different examples. The thing with complex sentences is that the dependent clause can come first or it can come second. So the order of the dependent clause and independent clause does not matter. So I showed you the first 2 are when the dependent clause is first, and then the last one is when the independent clause is first. And you will notice some differences. So let's look at the first 2. Because Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon, I did not see them at the station. Okay, do you recognize which one is the dependent clause? It's the one that has the subordinating conjunction. And one of those is because. So that's the very start of the sentence. So that means that the dependent clause is first. The second example is while he waited at the train station, Joe realized that the train was late. Once again, while is a subordinating conjunction, which makes this first part right here the dependent clause, and the second part right here the independent clause. This third example is where it switched. Mary and Samantha realized that Joe was waiting at the train station after they left on the bus. Okay, so what is a subordinating conjunction? It's this after right here. That is the word that makes this a complex sentence. Mary and Samantha realized that Joe was waiting at the train station. That's the independent clause, but they left on the bus. That would be one if the after wasn't there, right? All right, so I have gone through everything. So now your homework assignment that you need to write in your interactive notebook is going to be these 8 examples. I will read them for you, pause for about 5 seconds, and then go on to the next question. If you need me to slow down, just make sure to pause the video, okay? Example number 1. After they left on the bus, Mary and Samantha realized that Joe was waiting at the train station. Example number 2. Mary and Samantha took the bus. Example number 3. I looked for Mary and Samantha at the bus station. Example number 4. Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon, and they arrived on the bus before I arrived. Example number 5. I ate the cake. Example number 6. I did not see them at the station because Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon. Example number 7. Joe realized that the train was late while he waited at the train station. And example number 8. Mary and Samantha left on the bus before I arrived, so I did not see them at the bus station. Alrighty, the good thing is this video is on YouTube. If you all have absolutely any questions, just make sure to refer back to this video. Make sure to also write this down in your interactive notebook if you have any questions, because I will be happy to answer them tomorrow. Have a great night, guys.